Today, we're diving into the gray zone. We're talking about substances that really blur the lines. They challenge how we define what's legal, what's safe, and even what's real. And what they show us is just how fine that line is between a medicine, a supplement, and a flat-out poison.
So let me ask you something. What if that party balloon you see everywhere was actually, with every single hit, starving your brain of precious oxygen? And what if a supplement, one you can buy completely legally online, could hook you into a dependency cycle with withdrawals so bad, so severe, you literally need doctors to help you escape? And what if a drug that looked, felt, and was sold as acid could actually kill you on the very first try? These aren't just some scary hypotheticals. These are real substances. And today, we're stepping into the world of these lesser-known gray zone drugs.
Okay, so our first stop is the dissociatives. This whole class of drugs, they all share one fundamental and, let's be honest, kind of frightening goal: to completely sever the connection between your mind and your body, to create this profound feeling of being detached from reality itself.
So how do they actually pull this off? Well, the key is their ability to block something called NMDA receptors in the brain. You can think of these receptors as the brain's air traffic control for all your senses. Dissociatives basically cause a total communications blackout. They scramble all the signals, and that's what leads to that signature feeling of being detached from yourself and from the world around you.
Let's start with one you've probably heard of: nitrous oxide, or laughing gas. It's famous for that quick 30-second wave of giggly, weightless euphoria. But here's the trap. Because it's so brief, people tend to do it over and over. And with every single one of those inhalations, you're not just getting high, you are temporarily starving your brain of oxygen. And if you do it enough, it completely drains your body's vitamin B12, which can lead to very real and, potentially permanent nerve damage.
Then there's DXM, the active ingredient in a lot of over-the-counter cough syrups. A robo-trip is no quick escape, though. It's a long, slow, and often unpleasant ride. It usually starts with nausea and your body feeling super heavy. Then, at its peak, users say it's like they're watching a movie of themselves, totally detached. And it all ends in this long, groggy, chemical hangover that can pretty much wipe out your entire next day.
And finally, at the far end of the spectrum, you have PCP. This is where that disconnection becomes absolute. It doesn't just distort reality, it completely shatters it. By blocking those NMDA receptors so powerfully, it basically switches off the brain's ability to process pain or fear. And that's what creates that legendary and terrifying feeling of invincibility. Because for the person on it, physical harm and consequences have literally stopped existing. So, if disassociatives disconnect you from reality, our next category does something totally different. They remix it. Let's dive into the psychedelics, drugs that don't erase reality, but fundamentally alter how you perceive it.
And the way they work is completely different. Instead of blocking receptors, classic psychedelics mostly activate your serotonin receptors. Now, this is the system in your brain that regulates your mood, your perception, pretty much all your cognitive processes. And that's exactly why these drugs have such a massive impact on how we see, think, and feel.
Take 2CB, for instance. People often call it a controllable trip. It gives you all the classic visual effects and that emotional warmth you hear about with psychedelics, but without that feeling of totally losing control. Users say they still feel pretty clear-headed and grounded, like they can navigate the experience even while the world around them is kind of shifting and breathing. And then you have salvia, which is, it's just in a league of its own. It doesn't even act on serotonin receptors, it hits these kappa opioid receptors, and the result is just profoundly strange. People don't just see patterns, their entire sense of self can dissolve. They report becoming inanimate objects, like a wall or a page in a book. It's an experience that is almost never described as euphoric, but almost always as confusing, alien, and totally disorienting.
And this comparison really drives home just how diverse that one word, psychedelic, really is. On one hand, you've got 2CB, a 4 to 6 hour journey of emotional connection. On the other, salvia gives you maybe 5 to 10 minutes of a complete and often really unpleasant replacement of reality. It's just a powerful reminder that one label can hide completely different worlds of experience.
This brings us to a really crucial point about a lot of modern psychedelics: the danger. There's a substance called NBOME, sometimes called fake acid, that looks identical to an LSD blotter. But unlike LSD, which is physically pretty darn safe, NBOME's active dose is dangerously close to its toxic dose. The trip it gives you is often harsh and jittery, and it can cause seizures, heart attacks, and yes, even death from just a single tap.
All right, for our last category, we're going to turn to substances people take not to escape reality, but to try and enhance it. These are the so-called functional highs. They're drugs that promise to make us better, sharper, calmer, but almost always they come with a hidden and very dangerous price tag.
Let's kick things off with kratom. At a low dose, it acts like a strong cup of coffee. It's stimulating, helps you focus, but at a higher dose, it does a complete 180 and becomes a sedative, making you feel warm and relaxed. But here's the kicker, the really crucial part. No matter what dose you take, no matter how it feels, its active chemicals are binding to the exact same opioid receptors in your brain that heroin and morphine bind to.
And you see this same dangerous bargain with another functional drug, phenibut. It starts out great, incredible relief from anxiety and stress, but tolerance builds up incredibly fast. Really quickly, you need more just to feel normal. And if you dare to try and stop, the withdrawal is absolutely brutal. We're talking weeks of rebound anxiety, insomnia, and even seizures, often far worse than what people experience coming off many illegal drugs.
And then we have GHB. With this one, the effect you want, that euphoria, that sociability, it exists on a razor's edge. The difference between feeling good and losing consciousness, having your breathing slow down to dangerous levels, it can be a single, tiny, mismeasured milliliter. It's a ridiculously dangerous bargain for just a few hours of feeling sociable.
So after looking at all these different substances, from dissociatives to these so-called functional highs, what's the big takeaway here? Well, it all just comes down to one thing: your brain on chemistry.
You know, we use all these labels to try and make sense of things. Natural, synthetic, legal, illegal, supplement, medicine. We tell ourselves stories about what these different categories are supposed to mean.
But here's the simple, hard truth. Your brain doesn't care. It doesn't know, and it doesn't care if a molecule came from a leaf in Southeast Asia or from a sophisticated lab in Europe. All it recognizes is a molecule's shape, and it responds to its chemistry. That's it. So if we're going to remember anything from all this, it should be these key points. First, legal does not mean safe. That's a legal term, not a scientific one. Second, it's your brain's receptors, not a product's marketing, that determine what a substance actually does. Third, tolerance and withdrawal. They aren't some kind of moral failing. They are predictable chemical realities. And finally, the dose always makes the poison. And as we've just seen, sometimes that margin for error is terrifyingly razor thin.
Which leaves us with one last thing to think about. When a leaf from a tree acts on your opioid receptors, and a supplement for anxiety has a crippling withdrawal, and a common cough syrup can literally detach you from reality, where exactly do we draw the line between what we call a drug, a supplement, and a medicine? And maybe more importantly, who gets to decide?